Romeo and Juliet love story. The story of Romeo and Juliet revolves around a struggle between two very ancient families from the largest families of the Italian city of Verona, namely the Capulet family and the Montaigu family. The two of them are the most famous lovers in history, Romeo of Montaigu and Juliet of Capulet. Romeo's closest friend was called Mercutio, and he was a relative of the Prince of Verona, and he always helped Romeo and tried to underestimate him. For the first time, he fell in love with her at first sight. Although Romeo was going to the party to meet his beloved Rosalind, when he met Juliet, he learned that his love for Rosalind was not true love at all, as he found his true love in Juliet. Romeo and Juliet fell in love with each other, but fate was waiting for them. Juliet's cousin, who is called Tybalt, tried to quarrel with Romeo, so Juliet's father quickly intervened and prevented the quarrel because Romeo was the guest of the party, a young man known for his noble morals, and at the end of the ceremony he learned both Romeo and Juliet are fighting families eternal, and here all the difficulties began and the story of impossible love began. After the end of the ceremony, Romeo went to the garden of Juliet's house and met her, and they agreed to marry secretly the next day. They went together to the priest who agreed to marry them, believing that this marriage could fix the dispute between the two families, not paying attention that there was a gentleman from the kinship of the Prince of Verona called Paris. Juliet got engaged without her knowledge, which was very shocking by the way. She is now married to Romeo. Juliet went to the priest and told him everything, so he decided to help her. After that, Tybalt came looking for Romeo to fight him, but Romeo refused to fight because he had become a brother-in-law to him in spite of everything, and he knew about this marriage only. They are Romeo and Juliet, and the priest and a maid Juliet. When Tybalt insisted on fighting, Mercutio decided to intervene and fights him, until he met his death at the hands of Tybalt, who fled and left Romeo burning with anger, and he swore to avenge his friend. After that, Romeo succeeded in avenging his friend and killing Tybalt, so he was sentenced to exile outside the country. The news reached Juliet, who decided to stand by her husband until the end, and they decided to leave for the city of Mantua, without Romeo knowing that his mother had died of grief for him. Days passed and Juliet's father decided to announce her marriage to a relative of the Prince of Verona, so Juliet hurriedly sought the help of the priest who told her of his plan, as he decided to send a messenger to the city of Mantua to inform Romeo of the news. Then he gave Juliet a medicine that made her look completely dead for 2 full days until the marriage date was missed. Unfortunately, the messenger was unable to arriving at Romeo. The news of Juliet's death spread everywhere until he heard Romeo, who did not know anything about the plan until this moment. Romeo went mad and hurried to the tombs of the Capulet family, and found Juliet lying in her coffin. He looked at her in sadness and pain, and she became more beautiful and brighter, and in the tombs Paris met with Romeo, and he thought that he wanted to desecrate Juliet's grave because he was from the family of enemies, so the two rivals fought and killed Romeo. Paris, and Romeo was carrying with him a small vial of poison. Romeo's potion, the poison, fell dead next to Juliet, who woke up from her sleep after the effect of the medicine was gone, to find Romeo dead next to her, and without thinking, Juliet took his dagger and planted it in her heart to die as well. After that, all of the families came to the grave and witnessed the tragedy, and the priest told them everything, so the families reconciled and decided to erect statues of Romeo and Juliet of gold to immortalize their memory in the city, so that everyone remembers well that the families are the cause of the death of their 2 children, and that the 2 lovers are the reason for reconciliation between them.